Hello everyone, welcome back to Art with 100 Hues, and in today's video we will be going over the basics and a quick guide of color theory. First of all, we have to understand what color theory is. Color theory is basically the understanding of how colors work together to create a certain mood. It's the guidelines and the rules to just make colors basically look good together. If that's basically the simplest version of like an explanation that there is. To start, we're going to go over the color wheel. So right here, as you can see, I have a color wheel. This is a very basic one. When you Google color wheel, you can find, these really big ones with different shades. But I like these ones because they're just simple and easy to navigate through, if that makes sense. So first of all, these colors, so the yellow, this blue, and this red, these are all primary colors. Now this might be something that you learned in elementary school, but maybe some of you guys didn't, so I'm just going to explain this all. Now this, and this, these are all secondary colors. These are made by mixing two primary colors together. So for example, this purple is made by mixing this blue and this red. And this orange is made by mixing this yellow and this red. And this green is made by mixing this yellow and this blue. All right. Now the colors that we have left, they're all tertiary colors. Tertiary. They are made by mixing a primary and a secondary color together. So, for example, this lime green is made by mixing this primary and the secondary color together to make the tertiary. I'm not going to go through all of them because that's going to take a little, so I hope this just makes sense to you. The color wheel is the basic foundation of color theory. So a lot of things that you learn in color theory you can find on the color wheel. So one example of this is color harmonies, and these are found on the color wheel. So one example of this is complementary colors. So these are when two colors are opposite from each other on the color wheel. So one example of this is this yellow and this purple right here. These two are complementary to each other. So I like to think of this as a rivalry, if that makes sense. So for example, if you have yellow hair, when you bleach your hair, you use purple shampoo because purple cancels out yellow. And that's why I think of it as a rivalry, but it's also like a friendship rivalry, right? You still care about the other person, so they work well together, even though they also cancel each other out, if that makes sense. So it's basically a friendship rivalry, kind of. But another example would then be blue and orange, but these specific ones, okay? And like all of the colors that are opposite, but I'm not going to label all of them. The next thing is we also have split complementary. That's a little, it's kind of gets confusing, but it's basically the colors next to the complementary color. So basically, for yellow, we have, I'm going to get rid of these two just for this example. For yellow, this is the complementary color. But for yellow, this is the split complementary. All right, so it's 3 shades on the color wheel. So basically, split complementary is just the color that, it still uses the color that's across from it, but it uses the 2 colors that are next to that color if that makes sense. So for the blue that we used, it will be these two colors. This is a very, very simple example of complementary colors. We have the purple and we have the yellow together. As you can see, they stand out, okay, like a lot. They bring each other out. Like the yellow background just really gives that purple a pop, which by itself it wouldn't have. The purple by itself isn't much of like an eye grabber, but having the yellow background, it just really captures that beautiful purple dot, right? It's beautiful. But then also to show, this is split complementary. And as you can see, they are still at, like, they still have that effect, but they're not as strong, if that makes sense. As you can see, the line here isn't as sharp. It's not, but except for the fact that it's blurry because I'm zoomed in a lot. That's my fault. But the line here between the two colors, it's not as like contrast heavy, if that makes sense. Because it's not complementary, it's split complementary, okay? So I just want you guys to see the difference with my interestingly colored yellow background. The next harmony we're going to be discussing is analogous. I have no idea if I'm pronouncing it right. Hang on with me here. So analogous is when two colors are next to each other on the color wheel. It's really simple. So for example, for this green, these two colors will be analogous. And these two colors will be analogous. This color is analogous to both of these. I'm not sure if I'm using the word correctly in this sentence, like grammar-wise, but we're not in English, we're basically in art class. So it's fine. But yeah, so these two aren't analogous to each other because they're not next to each other. And it's pretty simple to like understand this concept. So I'm not going to go into further elaboration because this should be pretty self-explanatory. They are next to each other on the color wheel, and as you can see, this is not really a pop at all. You can see that they're different colors, but you can see that for sure it's definitely not complementary. They don't really have that pop. They're more calming to the eye, if that makes sense, but they don't have that kind of, contrast. They're more harmonious. They just don't have as much contrast. Next, we're going to be talking about triadic. I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing that one right. I'm decently confident in that one. It's basically when three colors are spaced out evenly along the color wheel. So, for example, I'm gonna use, oh, actually, it's not a good color. I'm gonna do this. Okay. And this will be triadic. And so would this. These three, oh my gosh, are triadic to each other. Again, not sure if I'm using the term in the grammar, but I think you guys understand what I'm saying. Because they're evenly spaced. There's three colors in between them, and there's three colors. So just keep in mind that's three because because of the Latin root, if you guys aren't familiar. So yeah, so they really bring each other out because they're different hues, like completely different hues. And we'll talk about hues later, if you guys don't understand that. Another one will be this orange, this green, and this kind of blue-purple. As you can see, they're very different colors, but if you use them correctly on a canvas, they would look amazing together. They're very different, but you just have to cleverly use them, if that makes sense. And same with like triadic in general, I think is very hard to use them like in a drawing. But if you really if you understand it and really have like that vision in your head and that mood and that feeling, then I know like you'll be able to do it whether you have experience or not. This one is really similar to triadic, but it's tetradic, okay? I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce it. Again, please correct me if I'm wrong. I'm fully open to these mistakes because my pronunciations are amazing. Anyways, they're very similar, except for instead of 3, it's 4 because tetra is its Latin root for 4. I hope that's common knowledge. But anyways, so you start here, like if you started here. What is that? Okay. We have 2 colors in between. 2 colors in between. And 2 colors in between. This one is as well kind of hard to use in that sense of like, hey, I want to create a canvas with tetratic colors, but I don't know what I want to draw or which colors I want to draw with. That's when it becomes hard because what can you think of that uses red, kind of a blue, purple color, orange, and green? Like, you could probably think of some, but it takes much longer than using, like, just using the complementary colors or some others. So, yes, there's different, in my personal opinion, there's different, like, levels that these are on. But yeah, now I'm gonna show you how those kind of work out together. So I drew this basically really quickly to just show you the difference between all of these harmonies. And as you can see, they're very, very different. So let's just start over here. So here we have the complementary color. As you can see, it's that pop that I showed you earlier. Same with this one and this one. I already showed you guys this. They still have that pop. It's just not as, oh my gosh, wow. Next we have these 2, the analogous. They are, by the way, all of these colors, they are related to the color yellow. So it's the complementary for yellow, and it's the split complementary for the yellow, if that makes sense. These are the analogous, and they are, both left and right. And as you can see, it's much more calming to the eye than when you go to the triadic. These are also very pop, but they aren't very, like, they're not as much as the complementary. They still offer, like, that contrast. It's just not as strong as the complementary because obviously, like, it's not exactly on the opposite side. And then here we have the tetratic. Notice how this one is also complementary, by the way. These are also, like, they work together very well. And again, that's what I'm saying. Like, how would you find, like, a good drawing at the top of your head looking at these colors? Please give me ideas, by the way. Like, in the comments. I need ideas for drawing. But if you guys are that creative, maybe it's just me, maybe it's just my brain. But anyways, so as you can see, like, some of them still have that pop. This one less because these are warm colors, and these 2 are more on the cooler side, so they have a little bit less of a pop. But you can see that for yourself on how they change. And obviously, like, this diagram isn't perfect. The circles aren't all circle, and obviously, like, the handwriting isn't amazing, but it's just meant for you to see just, like, how it changes and, like, how different they are for yellow. Okay, so these are all basically related to yellow. And we're back to the color wheel, but now we're going to change the topic, and we're going to start talking about hue, saturation, and value. So hue is basically, it's the base color. So this would be, like, all of these colors on this color wheel. So it would be really all the colors. And one way that I heard somebody explain it to me one way that somebody explained it to me that just really stuck, and I hope it helps you, is that, like, it's basically what we mean when we ask for your favorite color, right? So it's literally all, like, every color. It's the purest form of that color, and like every shade of color, right? And this is really important because it's also my channel name. So if you didn't know that, there you go. So that's basically hue. So when you're changing it, like in a drawing, when you're changing the hue, you're just shifting the colors in the color wheel around. So red might become like more violet. So these next few are just gonna go pretty fast, unless I get off topic and talk as much as I usually do. So the color wheel was really just the longest one. So this is basically my diagram of saturation. It's basically the intensity of a color. So as you can see, this right here is 100% saturation. It is the purest and the most intense and vivid that color will get, okay? And as we progress, it gets less and less intense and less vivid and less visible, if that makes sense. One way I like to think of it is, I like to think of it as painting with watercolor, like on a canvas. The more water you have, the less intense your watercolor will be. So right here, it's a perfect ratio between watercolor and a little bit of water, okay? And over here, it's the exact same, but like flipped, okay? A lot of water and a little bit of watercolor. So that's just what I think of it as. You can pretty much find your own little interpretation of it, but that's pretty much all saturation is. It's just the intensity and vividness of a color. And the last talking point probably is gonna be value. So it doesn't matter what hue or what saturation, the value controls like how light or dark a color is. So as you can see, this is again my starting color. This hasn't changed. I just zoomed in on my horrible coloring, but it's fine. It's just a demonstration. Please do not judge on my demonstration images. They don't have much effort in them. Unlike this video is a lot of effort, by the way. But anyways, so these diagrams show you how, like, going both ways. So we have it going darker, right? So the hue progresses down until it goes all the way to black, and same thing, but for it's lighter, okay? It's just you cannot get this confused with saturation, okay? When you look at this, you might think that, hey, that looks a lot like saturation. But the thing is that it's not, like, if you had several strokes on top of another with the opacity down, okay? Let's say the opacity was 50% on your brush and it was this color. It would get, like, and it was, like, this color, okay? Sorry. My brain is fried today. It is a Friday. But let's say it was this color and it's 50% opacity, okay? You're layering several strokes on top of each other. Where the strokes overlap are going to be darker, okay? They might be this shade or something like that. But because we're demonstrating value, that wouldn't happen because this is a completely different, like, shade. Technically it's a different hue, okay? It's not completely, like, obviously it's the same color, just a different value, okay? So it's not a different hue, but if it makes sense, like, it's a different shade. It's not a different, like, opacity or intensity. It's a different shade. So please do not get these confused because I've seen it happen before. They're very different, but the way this looks, they look the same. And I understand how you might get these confused. They're not the same diagrams. Please do not accuse me of this. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is for value. Like I said, these are going to fly by. These are really quick. Thank you guys so much for watching until the very end. It really means a lot to me, that, like, watching to the whole entire end. We see the color wheel for the last time. But if you do want a second part, please let me know. I have a lot of other tips about color theory, and there is so much I left out, and it was like super stressful finding out, like picking specific parts to explain in this video, because there's just so much and I didn't know exactly like which ones I wanted to pick for this one, which ones I wanted to explain. There's so much that like I haven't explained in this video, and I hope that I can explain in the future. But I hope you guys enjoyed my beginner's guide to color theory, and I hope it wasn't too confusing, because I know when somebody explains something that's like they're really passionate about, it might seem a little confusing because they use terms that you might not understand. But I hope I explained those well. Please let me know down below in the comments what I should do next time, because there will be a next time probably. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and see you next time. Have an amazing day.